Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Zach Drew.
And I'm Andrew Bellers.
If you're now a new viewer on WHT World Harvest Television, welcome. Buckle up because the content that we talk about each week is can be shocking, but incredibly well-researched every single week.
Yes.
This week, we're going to be talking about technology, the future of technology. I, once again, am going to have such a hard time getting through all of this content. This right here is the Metaverse, okay? This right here, we purchased the Oculus Quest 2. This is the newest VR virtual reality. It is a totally immersive experience. This is what Facebook, now being branded as Meta, have totally changed their name. The company parent name over it is no longer Facebook.
Right.
Facebook will still be Facebook, but now the owner of all, for example, like Alphabet owns Google, right? So now Facebook has essentially created the Alphabet. It is a covering over all of their endeavors, and it is Meta. They're creating a metaverse. Their goal is to create a fully immersive virtual reality where people will play, interact, game, work, basically exist in a fully immersive experience. And this is what the current device looks like. So we're going to be talking about some of that, and it's really I'm excited for today's show. I'm more excited about today's show than even other shows because some of the content really is, I feel like it's inspired. So I think you're going to enjoy today's program. But just so you know, if you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on Saturday instead of Friday. People watch from all over the place. We have a small group of people that watch on YouTube, but they're very faithful, and they truly are givers to this ministry as well. They're faithful that watch there. The reason we're a day behind is because I said last week, I cannot believe we haven't been banned from YouTube with our content. We've been doing this for 3 years, and I said, we haven't been banned. We're going to be banned after this show, right?
You called it.
Yes. So it wasn't. It was not a permanent ban, but we did get banned. I woke up the next morning, and the show was erased from our account. Big long email from YouTube that basically that they accused me of spreading medical disinformation that could kill people, right? And it's because it's two words. It's two words that I was flagged for. So I was barred. The show removed, long email, barred from publishing or uploading or even explaining to the audience for 7 days what happened. We were not allowed to do anything. And then I also received a strike on my account. 3 strikes, I'm permanently banned, unless the content's so great that it can be counted as actually more than 1 strike. You can be removed all in one fell swoop. And it's because of 2 words, all right? Now, I cannot say these words. And it's not like there's some narc sitting, in a tiny little dark office eating Cheetos on Friday night in the headquarters of YouTube saying, well, I can't come home yet, because I got to watch the Zach Drew show, right? Got to make sure, we're keeping him under control. It's not like that. There's no one watching my show at YouTube. It's AI.
Yeah, his job's already been replaced by a robot.
Exactly. It's machine learning. It's algorithms. So any word I physically say, it is fed into their algorithms, and there's keywords that are flagged. So there's certain words that I cannot say on this program for our YouTube audience. If you're watching on WHT, I could say it, but I want to be faithful to those that watch on YouTube as well. So you remember, the old song, it's flowing deep and wide. And what's flowing deep and wide? I used to always say as a kid, it's either mountain, fountain, a fountain flowing wide. Yeah, because why would a mountain be flowing deep and wide?
That's a good question.
In Sunday school, it's about, God's love, deep and wide, there's a fountain flowing deep and wide. All right. Well, as the song continued, you get more creative. And at the last part, you would replace the words deep and wide for and right? So you go, kids loved it. There's a fountain flowing,
All right? Remember bingo? B-I-N-G-O? N-G-O? N-G-O?
Yeah, well, there you go. See, exact same thing.
Yeah.
So there's 2 words that I can't say. And it's Okay? Now, let's go ahead and put it on the screen for whenever I go what I mean. So the two words I cannot say so that the algorithm cannot pick it up is I cannot say and Okay? Now, I said last week that you are deceived if you do not have and in your medicine cabinet, because doctors, the greatest doctors, with the creators of the mRNA vaccine. I mean, just the doctors of doctors, tens of thousands of citations and published work, hundreds of they have said, I'm trying to be careful, that if you take and you will not get, we'll throw another one in there, all right? So, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm getting parched. Talking like this, excuse me, I'm just gonna take a quick little sip. Very thirsty, sorry.
Yeah.
I got my juice. There, that's better. So, we talked about if you are deceived if you do not have those things in a medicine cabinet, because they can literally keep you alive. And you need to be taking in a preventative measure. And it's because of that talk that we got banned from YouTube last week, okay? So I say all that to say this. If you are in a location and you know what time we come on every week and you don't see us there, understand that we haven't just left. You know, if we take 1 week off every year and we let the audience know weeks in advance, it's the New Year's Friday. If it's not New Year's Friday and we're off and you can't find why we're off, we've been taken off, okay? So you need to go to the website. You need to be able to find our contact information so you can write us in. Where can we watch you? Because you can watch us on DirecTV WHT. You can watch us on Apple TV, Roku, the PTL Television Network. You can watch us in select markets on Comcast Cable. You can watch us on WHT DirecTV every single Saturday night, 9 p.m. Central Time. You can watch us on Apple Podcasts, on the Google one. Do people even have Androids anymore? I mean,
Watch us on Rumble.
Rumble.
Yep.
We need to start publishing to Vimeo. We've got a request for that. I forgot to tell you that.
Okay.
So we need to think about, so we're not there yet, but hopefully we'll be at Vimeo. So you need to understand, these are the type of topics we talk about. And what I was saying was 100% truthful. And they said that I was lying while I am saying the truth. I am saying truth, and they're saying you're lying. It's the most frustrating thing. It's Isaiah 5:20. They will call good things evil and evil things good, saying they will call truth lies and they will call lies truth. These are the times that we are living in, people. Let's, and I'm going to give you an update next week for how we did with fundraising. I got to wait one more week because, sometimes we're publishing 7 days behind. So I want to make sure everything comes in. And I'll let you know how we did for the fundraising for the TV airtime. Let's start off with this show, all right? It's everything technology today. From VR to artificial intelligence to how it'll create incredible job disruption, to how this will lead to universal basic income. And I really do look forward to the day when those that watch this program that say, he just says two things that are just too far out. It gets too sci-fi on that program. I am so unbelievably confident that these things are going to come, that it'll just be nice in 7, 8, 10 years when they're going back and they're saying that insane man on that show was talking about these things 10 years ago and they've come to fruition.
Yeah, the I told you so moment.
That one,
you don't have to rub it in, but it'll be that moment.
I don't know. Listen, let's lay the foundation with this story. A mind-reading robot was tested on humans with a 96% accuracy. Chinese scientists have built a wearable robot that can reportedly read a human mind by monitoring brainwaves and muscle activity. Developers claim the machine was able to recognize human intention with 96% accuracy, right? That's unbelievable. RT News reported that testing the device on factory workers, researchers from the Intelligent Manufacturing Innovation Technology Center of China Three Gorges University apparently found that the volunteers did not need to issue verbal commands or perform gestures when they needed to grab a tool or a component. The developers noted that the robot reacted almost instantly, picking up the required object and placing it on the workstation, according to the South China Morning Post. And if you're ever wondering what's happening in that neck of the woods, a very, very credible site that I used to follow every day, I got out of the habit of it, is the South China Morning Post. Daily Star reported the headgear uses so you put this on your head to control the robot.
It's a wearable.
It's a wearable. It uses non-invasive, meaning there's nothing being stuck into your head. It's just a wearable. Non-invasive brainwave detector and arm sensors in order to make commands which are sent to an attachment on the user's arms. Delighted researchers said that the robot showed it was able to follow the commands almost instantly. And it is being claimed that these collaborative robots or cobots could make a technological breakthrough. The device, which scans a user's brain waves and muscle activity, has been designed by that company. Reflecting on the findings in the academic journal, this is what needs to be said. Project lead scientist Dong Yongfa wrote on the possibilities that robots could create an industry, as assembly work accounts for 45% of the total workload.
Wow.
And 20 to 30% of the total production cost. So, a couple things to break down. First, elementary. Robots are getting smart.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, Elon Musk, has been able through wearables to teach a monkey can play video games. That the computer can literally read the monkey's brainwaves, and the monkey is successful at playing video games. Now we're into the human stages where 96% accuracy. Robots are getting smart. So what do you think it means whenever, assembly work accounts for 45% of total workload and 20 to 30% of total production costs? I'm telling you right now that millions and millions, and I'm not alone in saying this, millions and millions of jobs are going to be replaced in the near future by artificial intelligence and by machine learning. Okay? Now, so you got your blue collar job, right? And you're a union worker, and you got medical benefits, and you're working in a big city, and you're making $70,000 a year, right? Well, let's say you're working for another blue collar company, maybe that's not even union, but you're just making good money. The boss says, well, I can buy this new robot. Well, who's going to buy a robot that's, $140,000 robot? That's 2 years of pay.
Right.
If your guy's getting paid $70,000 a year, in 2 years, where will you be in 10 years? You'll have paid that union worker $700,000 a year plus medical benefits, and you'll have paid $140,000 for a robot with maybe occasional updates and some small service.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about inflation. You don't have to worry about the union, negotiating costs. You don't have to worry about liability. Think about dangerous jobs. I mean, the jobs that are dangerous, part of that $70,000 a year is because you're willing to do something that could potentially hurt you. All of a sudden, you've got a robot. You don't have to worry about those liability damage costs.
Yes. Now, I'm going to go quickly because, oh my goodness, we're already almost 15 minutes in the program. So I'm going to skip a lot of this article. I just need the headline, really. Another 4.5 million Americans quit their jobs. Robots are filling positions. 20 million manufacturing jobs taken by 2030. I'll just kind of go down to the bottom of the article. According to one report by CNBC News, robots could take over 20 million manufacturing jobs around the world by 2030. Economists have claimed, according to a new study from Oxford Economics, within the next 11 years, there could be 14 million robots put to work in China alone. Economists analyzed long-term trends around the uptake of automation in the workplace, noting that the numbers of robots in use worldwide increased threefold over the past 2 decades to 2.25 million. I believe we're going to see exponential growth on that number. While researchers predicted the rise of robots will bring about benefits in terms of productivity and economic growth, they also acknowledged the drawbacks that were expected to arise simultaneously. As a result of robotization, tens of millions of jobs will be lost, especially in poor local economies that rely on lower skilled workers. This will therefore translate to an increase in income inequality, the study authors have found. Listen, let's get into it. We've talked about it before. We are in the fourth industrial revolution, okay? We just entered into it a few years ago, the fourth industrial revolution. Each industrial revolution has disrupted jobs, right? Those of you that are even a novice, in history, an amateur, know that. It has disrupted the industrial revolutions have disrupted many elements of our lives and mass job loss because of machines. This is the MO of industrial revolutions. It's the trend. 1760 to 1840 was the first industrial revolution. And as we've talked about, what was it? It was the rise of the iron and textile industries and the development of the steam engine. It was the process of going from hand production to machine production. And what did it do? It put multitudes of people out of work. Going from hand production to machine production, I mean, my gosh, think about living in the 1700s, right? It took less people to operate a machine than to make the products or perform their duties by hand. After that, there was the second industrial revolution known as the technological revolution, and it was public electricity, light bulb, telephone, internal combustion engine, which led to cars and airplanes. Then, starting in the 1980s, there was the digital revolution, right? Characterized as moving from analog, electric, and mechanical devices to the digital technology. Many jobs were replaced by this. We don't have time to get into it. It was best known for the personal computer and the internet. Now, with these things, it also creates many jobs. So it displaces many jobs, but it also creates new jobs. But there is a common denominator of each industrial revolution. It is this: mass job disruption. Technology increases, giving more power to machines. People do less and rely more on the machine world, the digital world, than the physical world. That is the trend from the very first one, starting in the 1700s. The human race becomes more dependent, everyone, on technology, and in an exponential way. And thinking about going from the advent of the light bulb to the personal computer and the internet, this is exponential. Mm-hmm. And we have entered into the next industrial revolution, and exponential in the fashion, this is not a 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 type of scenario, just using numbers. This is a 10 to 100 to 1,000 to 10,000 scenario. This cycle started almost 300 years ago with the first industrial revolution. You think about it. For thousands of years, the growth of technology was negligible, right? Basically at a total standstill, or at least so small or unimportant, it wasn't even worth considering. Abraham in the Old Testament got from point A to point B in the same fashion, in the same amount of time as thousands of years later, Abraham Lincoln did. Now, did people adjust over time to the job displacement of the revolutions? Yes. But the adjustment period historically has been proven to be long and painful. And that is what we're entering into. The aftermath of the Industrial Revolution involved two major communist revolutions whose death toll approached nearly 100 million people, Mao and Stalin. It was as a result of the Industrial Revolution. We are on that same train, people, 300 years later. Now, in both the first Industrial Revolution and today's fourth, the first effects will be the same in first world countries. The substitution of technology for workers. Let me read this article for you. The robot revolution resembles the first industrial revolution. New technology disrupted working life as never before. A large percentage of the workforce seemed likely to lose its job and maybe never work again. Poverty threatened the displaced workers, who succumbed to addiction and disease. It sounds like a dystopian prediction of the introduction of robots, but it is actually a description of Britain's problems during the first industrial revolution. The parallels are striking and instructive. There's another study that was actually as well based out of Oxford that said that in the next 15 years, they believe up to 40% of all jobs will be replaced. Where will we go? What will we do? How will we survive? I believe that we have all of those answers of what they will do, where we will go, and how we will survive here. And all the answers are not good, but I believe it is where we're going. Disruptions in Great Britain. In Britain, 3/4 of a century earlier, the process was far more difficult for ordinary people to navigate. Unlike the United States of 1875, in the Britain of 1800, there were a multitude of non-agricultural workers engaged in work that paid quite well and was undertaken on an outwork basis without powered equipment. This is the parallel. I need you to understand that if you've been tuning in and out, this is the parallel between the first industrial revolution and what we're going to encounter in the industrial revolution that we've just entered into. Hand-loom weavers were the largest class of these, but stocking frame knitters and croppers who dressed cloth by hand each appear to have numbered in the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. These workers welcomed their relative freedom from workforce discipline. They worked from home, using their own unpowered equipment, could work in the hours that they chose, and were paid by the amount of product they produced. Initially, the industrialization of spinning increased the demand for handloom weavers, who had a very good decade in the 1790s. It was like being a journalist after the invention of the internet. However, the arrival of powered equipment for weaving and stocking frame knitting and a mechanical cropping machine revolutionized these workers' lives for the worse. They continued to be paid by the products they produced, but the value of those products was lower because they could be produced more cheaply with water or steam powered equipment. The unfortunate hand workers were not thrown out of work immediately. However, if they stayed in the same occupation, their earnings fell over the next couple of decades by as much as 80 to 90%. Hence, for a generation, even as living standards in Britain were rising generally, there were substantial groups of workers that were immiserated, made poor. Many of them turned to radical politics, becoming Luddites and smashing machinery or participating in various abortive uprisings. So they literally would go in and smash the machines. For them, industrialization meant greatly reduced living standards or outright unemployment. Their choices were by no means as clear-cut and easy as for workers in the U.S. industrialization of the 1870s and 1880s. So I think, first off, do you have any thoughts on that? You mean to?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I think, in the same way, we have hacking communities. We have white hat hackers and black hat hackers, essentially, meaning the white hat hackers, they're known as the good hackers that, work for our interests in government agencies, and the black hat hackers, which, some could say, what's the type of villain that's like a hero and a villain?
Like an anti-hero.
An anti-hero. Some could say Anonymous is like an anti-hero because they're wicked and they're awful, but they think that, some of the things that they're doing is for a great cause. Mm-hmm. I believe that in the same way, people would literally go in and grab these machines that have destroyed their lives, that have eviscerated communities, that people will try to destroy robots. Now, I don't know if that literally means going into a company and smashing the robot on the ground, but I think that there will literally rise up hacking communities, hacking groups feeling that they are doing a service to humanity, and maybe they are. Maybe they are. By destroying wicked companies that have enslaved the human race. Now, I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about 20 years in the future. I'm talking about the Antichrist being upon the scene.
Yeah. I mean, what's the timeline of that 40% of the workforce? what's the timeline of that? Is it over 5 years? Is it over 10 years? Almost half of the workforce being basically disenfranchised. You don't have a job. You don't have a way to put food on the table for your family. Absolutely, it's going to become incredibly chaotic.
Yes. And then in the world, whenever we move to this fully immersive type of scenario where a couple billion people, if not a few billion people, are partaking, the majority of their lives in a simulation that's been created by these technocrats, I believe, like I said, that there will be very intelligent hackers that are viewed as archaic, that see the insanity and the evil and the sinister plans that have been manifested on the human race, and they'll feel that they're doing the human race a justice by hacking systems and destroying the AI that's enslaved people. It's like in the Pixar film WALL-E, where these people were they were so ingrained into the technology in front of them that until they got bumped out of their wheelchair thing that took them around the world is whenever they finally woke up. Like to destroy the screens in front of the people that had destroyed their lives until they were bumped out of that chair. They were slaves.
It's amazing. I don't think most of us realize even how ingrained this technology is in our lives, how, for maybe lack of a better word, hypnotized we become by it. There was, in one of these articles, I didn't highlight it, but there was a lady who was just talking about the VR experience. This is the newest Oculus.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm talking about. When you put it on your head and you enter into this world and you have these controls basically acting as extensions of your arms, and you spend, all of a sudden hours of your day in a world that doesn't exist. Yes. And she said the experience of taking that off of your head and coming back to reality. She said, I would look at my hands and they weren't my hands. It was like you becoming estranged from what you can actually feel and touch, like becoming estranged from even your own body. Like that's the kind of deception we're talking about.
And we haven't seen anything yet. This is so elementary to what is coming. But it's being built. Right now, Facebook is in the process of hiring 10,000 new workers to exclusively build the metaverse. Mm-hmm. This is unbelievable. Their first round of funding, the first round of Mini, is $10 billion to be put towards this. Unbelievable numbers. And that's just the first round. But but we won't go there until the disruption takes place, until we are essentially, the world has become a dystopic thing and we're forced to go somewhere else in large part. Mm-hmm. Disruptive robots and the advent of robots bears more similarity to the advent of industrialization itself than to the extension of industrialization to a new equipment. The United States, or to previous advances within an industrialized system. You see, there is very little understanding of what the new world will look like, the one that they're building, the one that we're discussing right now, because the anticipated changes in work patterns are unprecedented. There is nothing, it's not comparable to anything. It is a brand new thing. We cannot compare it to anything. It's unlike anything the world has ever seen in all of our history. There's also a huge fear of redundancy, such as much of it is justified, as whole categories of decently paid occupations seem likely to be wiped out for handloom weavers of, early 19th century Britain. You need to read in today's society, you need to read things like truck driver or supermarket cashier in 21st century America. As with handloom weavers, the redundancy of truck drivers may take a generation to happen. I do not believe it'll take 40 years to happen. Tesla's already created this semis. They've tested them. They really are amazing. I hate what's going to do, but they're amazing. It might take a generation to happen. I don't believe that, as with handloom weavers, it is inevitable in the end. In the meantime, this transformation will result in huge pressures on truck drivers' living standards. But listen, it's not just truck drivers. It's not just supermarket cashiers. It's customer service executives It's bookkeeping and data entry. It's receptionists, proofreaders, manufacturers, and pharmaceutical work. It's retail services. It's doctors. It's soldiers. It's taxi drivers and bus drivers. It's market research analysts. It's security guards. It's accountants. It's delivery people. It's proofreaders. Oh, I already said proofreaders. It's telemarketers. They're basically already automated, but it's business managers. It's architecture jobs. It's retail shops. It's factory workers. It's farmers. Get another job? For individuals, the best option for handloom weavers was to get a job in one of the new textile mills where wages were higher and new technology gave them a global cost advantage over Indian and other foreign producers, not just over domestic handloom weavers. However, early in the transition, this was not obvious. The cost advantage of factories was only modest, and there were only disadvantages in quality. Furthermore, there were obvious disadvantages to factory work compared with home-based handloom weaving. The hours were long. You were separated from your family, and you very likely had to leave the village in which your family had resided for generations. Thus, the transition process was sticky, and even though average incomes rose, a substantial portion of the workforce found themselves becoming rapidly poor. That is where we're at. That is where we are heading. And so the human race did adjust. And like I said, thousands of years, the human race did not have to deal with these problems. These are new problems that have started in the last 300 years since the first Industrial Revolution. And praise God for the Industrial Revolutions, because listen, I like my AC. I like the conveniences of this world, but I do understand where they're going. And I don't think it's time to unplug just yet. I just went out and bought the Oculus. It's not time to unplug. But there will be a day where we have to unplug. But also, like I said, the people adjusted. They were able to adjust. They found new jobs because these new technologies created new jobs. But there comes a point in time when there will be no more jobs, right? If there will be, so everything is robotics. Everything is. The world can only have so many coders, right? Mm-hmm. They can only have so many coders. That's like the main job of the future. So what will we do? Where will we go? One opportunity you will have will be to work in a simulated universe, that being VR.